Hey everyone, Z-Slayer Dre here, and today I'll be reviewing Hitman 3, developed and published by IO Interactive. Hitman 3 is the last part of the new Hitman reboot trilogy and is built upon the framework of Hitman 1 and 2. Along with 6 new levels, owners of Hitman 1 and 2 will be able to play those games through Hitman 3 with some graphical improvements. PlayStation owners will also have access to a new VR mode, although while I do have a VR headset, it is not compatible with PlayStation, so I was unable to test that mode. I went with the PlayStation 4 version, although the game is available on the new consoles and Xbox One. While it is available on PC, unfortunately it is exclusive to the Epic's Game Store, which is the main reason why I went with the PlayStation 4 version. While you are able to transfer your progress from the previous two games, I was unable to since I got Hitman 1 and 2 through PS Plus and Now, so anyone who is in the same boat, you will unfortunately have to rebuy the games if you want to get the improvements through the Hitman 3 version. With all that being said, let's get into it. You again play as Agent 47 in the conclusion of the trilogy. Story has always been a bit light in the reboot trilogy, and there's really no exception here. It might even be a bit lighter this time around. It's an extremely basic and predictable story, and most cutscenes are only about a minute long, so don't go in expecting a Shakespeare-esque story here. That being said, the story works within the confines of the game and is competently told, or at least for the most part anyways. Your first mission has you traveling to Dubai, accompanied by your long-lost childhood friend Lucas Gray. In the previous games, Agent 47 and his handler Diana Burnwood, working together as assassins in the ICA, had been contracted by a shadow client to target operatives of Providence. Providence is a secret organization with its members operating in secret amongst the rich and powerful across the globe. Providence had tried to get Agent 47 to take out the shadow client, but once he found out the shadow client was actually his long-lost friend, Diana and him decided to take out Providence instead due to an old pact they had. You travel to Dubai to take out one of the three Providence partners, and this is where the game kicks off. While the story is light, the levels do have to follow it, which seems to have limited the variety of the levels. The story is fine. It really does not enhance the game, and in some ways hinders it, but I'll go over more of that later. But the gameplay does really seem to be the main focus, so let's go over that. And, well, if you've already played Hitman 1 and 2, you already know exactly how the game plays because Hitman 3 is virtually identical to the previous entries in the trilogy. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as most of the gameplay mechanics have already been refined, and as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, that means any issues from the previous games have been carried over as well. But for anyone who hasn't played the previous games, I'll give a quick summary of the gameplay. The game is split into open-ended levels that provide multiple ways to assassinate your targets. Levels can be quite large and complex, although in Hitman 3 some levels are linear in nature, and at times smaller in scope than in previous entries. As you travel throughout the level, you can listen to conversations to find out about a variety of things, such as hidden areas or unique ways to take out your target. You can also disguise yourself as certain types of NPCs, allowing you to access restricted areas in the level. You can absolutely go in guns blazing, although you'll miss out on a lot that the game has to offer if you do so. Not to mention the gunplay is rather poor, which I'll talk about more later in the review, and when you kill targets it affects your score. At the end of a level, you get graded on a variety of things like how quickly you completed the level, if you hid bodies, if you found secrets, etc. If you kill people, it can decrease your score or even nullify it completely, leaving you with a 0 at the end, which certainly never happened to me. Yeah. As far as playing through the levels for the story goes, the score doesn't affect too much unless you really want to try and get onto the leaderboards. While almost everything is identical to the previous games, there are a few new things. One new thing you'll come across almost immediately in the first level, Dubai, is the camera. You can take the camera to scan certain electronic locks to unlock them, take pictures, and even the zoom-in function proved to be useful for some puzzles. There's also some safes that require passcodes that you'll have to scour the level to find. You can also earn experience after completing levels, allowing you to unlock special features for when you replay the level. You can unlock new starting locations, new places to conceal items, and new gadgets. There is unfortunately very little content in Hitman 3, so having new things to do when replaying levels is a key part of the gameplay loop. Trust me, I'll be talking more about that in just a bit, but first let's go over performance and presentation. I played on the PS4 Pro, and I have to say, graphically, it looked stunning at times. Of the 6 levels, 2 were very dark and rather bland visually, but the other 4 felt unique and had a very good presentation for the most part, especially the skyscraper in Dubai and the winery in Argentina. Lately, I've found most games struggle to hit 30 FPS even on the PS4 Pro, but Hitman 3 was surprisingly locked at a very stable 30 FPS. Granted, 30 FPS is half of the bare minimum that any game should play. Considering most games can't even hit 30 FPS, I'll take it. I can't remember a single time I noticed any significant frame loss, although the fans in my console did make it sound like an airplane. The music was limited, and I can't even recall a single theme, but in this type of game, you don't really need the music in the backgrounds to make it work. Okay, so now that we've gone over the basics, let's get into the meat and potatoes of Hitman 3. I rather enjoyed the first two games, and I was actually looking forward to reviewing Hitman 3, but unfortunately the game suffers from several major issues that I'll be going over. As far as the gameplay goes, it's fine. Kind of. The core gameplay loop of sneaking around, gathering information, and changing costumes works exactly as it did in the previous games, so that aspect of the game is fine. The gunplay, however, needs a complete rework, and it's rather disturbing that they felt fine not even attempting to improve it in any way from the previous games. Making matters worse is the AI. The AI in Hitman 3 might be among the worst AI I've seen in quite some time. It's so bad that it eliminates any challenge when things go wrong, as the AI NPCs just line in a Congo line and let you shoot them. While the focus on the game is stealth, it would be nice to have some challenge if you do mess up and get caught. Now, there are some game modes that restrict access to certain weapons that can add a significant challenge, but the AI is so bad in all areas that you can easily cheese your way through many encounters. Another major issue was game length, or rather lack thereof. Even dealing with technical issues, which I'll go over in a bit, and having to replay a mission, I still beat the story in just under 3 hours. That was with me searching every nook and cranny along with taking my time. I could have easily finished well under 2 hours if I had wanted to. I understand that you're meant to replay levels, but even taking that into consideration, this is still absolutely unacceptable for a full-price game. To add insult to injury, they used the framework of previous games, making Hitman 3 a glorified DLC being sold and marketed as a full game. It's not even like they had to make a new game from the ground up, they just reused an existing framework. Of the 6 levels, 1 is linear and adds little to no replayability, so that leaves us with only 5 levels. Of those 5 levels, I would only consider 2 of them good, 2 were average, and 1 was actually quite poorly designed. Which means that more than half of the levels aren't even really worth replaying, and even if you did replay every level, you would have to play each one dozens of times to get your money's worth. The good levels I felt were Dubai and Argentina. They seemed very well designed with a lot going on, especially Dubai. Both levels felt well designed with plenty of avenues to complete your mission, just like in the previous games. Of the average levels, a few had promise, but they were either too short or suffered from poor level design in some areas. Take for instance the Dartmoor Manor. It was a great idea for a location, but outside of a few interesting secrets, it just didn't feel like it was built up to the standards from the previous games. The data storage facility in Chongqing, China seemed promising at first, but once I got inside, the level design was just abysmal. The designers also failed to add in any real interesting gameplay mechanics into those levels, making it rather boring. The last level in Romania, while it wasn't bad, it was a very short linear level that would have been a better fit in the Uncharted series instead of the Hitman series. Even though it was fine to play through it for the story, I felt like there was really no reason to revisit the level. Having such low content worth replaying breaks the gameplay loop because the game is meant to be replayed. Again, there's no excuse for how little content is in this full price game, and I'm still shocked that they felt fine with charging a full price for this DLC. To add even more insult to injury, the VR mode is PlayStation exclusive, meaning PC and Xbox players pay the same price for less content, which is inexcusable. We've had some issues recently with games coming out with very little content, but Hitman 3 is the worst example I can think of. To make matters somehow even worse, there's a few very serious technical issues as well. I faced several bugs and glitches, including the game locking up and having to restart it. I even had one level where I killed my first target, but the game didn't register the kill, so I continued the level hoping that when I took out the second target, it would register. Unfortunately, I was wrong, and I was unable to finish the level, so I had to restart the level near the beginning from an earlier save. Or at least that's what I thought I would have done if the game had let me load the save. Instead, I could not load my save because the servers were down. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would online servers affect your ability to play a single-player offline game? That's a great question, viewer, and your guess is as good as mine. For some inexplicable reason, you're forced to connect to the online servers while playing this offline single player game. Oh, actually, you know what? I looked up in the privacy policy. Actually, when you're online, they collect all your data and sell it. Actually, that's why. You can technically play offline, but it locks you out of the progression system, meaning you cannot unlock anything new. This literally breaks the game because unlocking new ways to play levels is the backbone of the game, considering there's very little content. And if you're playing an online session when the servers crash, you cannot load a save from an online game in offline mode. I had to wait a full day before I could play the offline single player game that I purchased because of the servers being down. And remember how I said earlier you could transfer your progress from the previous 2 games to Hitman 3 and also be able to play the old levels from previous games? Well, because of server issues, many people cannot transfer their progress, and some do not have access to Hitman 1 and 2 and Hitman 3, meaning that they have to re-buy the games again as DLC to play them even if they already own them. And if you think you can wait to transfer your save and play Hitman 3 while they fix the server issues, think again. If you transfer your save, it deletes your Hitman 3 save, so you can either wait till they fix the issue, if they ever do, or lose all your progress. This game was clearly rushed out to make a quick buck, and it's really sad that this isn't even the worst gaming release in recent memory, as bad as it is. To sum things up, the gameplay is mostly fine with some issues. However, due to the severe technical issues, the online server problems, and complete lack of content, this game is a total train wreck. This makes rating the game extremely difficult because the gameplay is average, and while some of the levels are bad, they are far from the worst I've ever seen. But with all the issues surrounding the game, I can't recommend buying it at full price or anything near full price. This game is DLC that is being marketed as a full game, and IO Interactive should be ashamed. I would say if you're really, really interested in buying it despite the issues, wait till the special edition is on sale for $15 or less. The special edition does not give you really much more content or really any, but the tiny little bit that it does is really necessary considering how little content there is in the base game. Any higher price is a complete ripoff, and not to mention if you wait a few months or years, the game might be fixed by then. I'm going to give Hitman 3 a 5 out of 10. This was a really bad way to start off 2021. I was rather hopeful that we would get a better year in gaming in 2021. While 2020 did have a handful of very good games, overall it was an abysmal year in gaming. As I've said time and time again, if you want anything to change, vote with your wallet. I bought this game to review it, and I'm still pretty annoyed that I wasted my money on this overpriced DLC, and I feel bad for any Hitman series fans. Unfortunately, this is a trend in gaming, and I'm probably going to have to give this speech after half the games I review, but that's the way it is, I guess, right now. They give us less and less while raising prices, and it needs to stop. Anyways, as far as future reviews go, there's not too many big ticket games being released over the next few months, so I have some fun videos planned. I'm doing reviews of Atelier Rise 1 and 2, and my initial impressions of the first game are very positive, so I hope the rest of the game is also good. I'm going to Platinum it as well, and this will be the first video I do in a new series called Journey to the Platinum. I'll be doing a short review of the game, but the main focus of the video will be to review how much fun it is to get the Platinum trophy. I'll make a video going over more details about that series, so stay tuned for that. I've been watching upcoming releases, and there's a few mid-tier games that do look interesting, so if there's something you'd like me to review, let me know down in the comments so I can focus on games people would like to see reviews for. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you're subscribed and be sure to hit the like button. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.